This motion in paragraph 3 thanks the heroes of the pandemic: scientists, doctors, nurses, aged care and disability workers, cleaners and other essential workers. Australians who have shouldered responsibility, Australians who have taken leadership. If only this Prime Minister could follow their example, if only this Prime Minister could refrain from his consistent pattern of making excuses, of ducking and weaving, because we know that this Prime Minister does that whenever he's asked to take responsibility, and he's done it again when it comes to members of his own party undermining the public health messages in the face of this pandemic. We know that there was a motion, a very similar motion in the other place, a motion the government didn't actually have the courage to call a division on. In speaking to the motion, our Prime Minister went to every length to avoid referring to the member for Dawson. He said, "What I'm not going to do is engage in a partisan debate on this." Well, the only partisan debate is the debate within his own party. He's not willing to have the debate in his own party. He's not willing, as the leader of the nation, to take responsibility and say to members of his own, "You're wrong and you should stop spreading dangerous misinformation." You know, what he did say is, "I don't support misinformation." Well, that's like saying you don't support cancer. You can't even be straight with people. Where was the rebuke? Where was the courage to say it was wrong? It's a spinner's way through, isn't it? Rather than making it clear that what the member for Dawson was saying was dangerous and saying he should stop making these sorts of comments, we saw the Prime Minister engaging in his same old dance of ducking and weaving. When Australia needs leadership and responsibility, Mr Morrison goes missing. He even went so far as to say, and the Leader of the government here in the Senate has said the same thing, he said if others wanted to undermine the public health effort with misinformation, he said that's a matter for them. That's a matter for them. I mean, really. That is a matter for them. What weakness. What weakness. This bloke can't even stare down his own party, let alone stand up for the country. But, you know, Mr Christensen is not alone in this. We have our own members of this place, senators in this place, who are prepared to make statements which are demonstrably against the public health advice and demonstrably not in the public interest. Senator Rennick, who said this about public health officials who are trying to keep Australians safe. Our country has become a comedy of errors. Our bureaucrats are the clowns. They're the clowns. And in a Facebook post that he's just made, he has since removed, he endorsed an article that undermined the TGA approval of vaccines. Remember that when this lot here stand up and tell us we're doing a great job because we've got the TGA approval for Moderna, one of their own is undermining the TGA approval process. And then we have Senator Canavan. I'm sure he's waiting for this. Well, Senator Payne, in a speech on disinformation, made this statement: "Let us be clear, disinformation during a pandemic will cost lives." Senator Payne would be aware, as Foreign Minister, of the leadership of Dr Anthony Fauci over many years and through the more than one pandemic, and I'm sure she would have also been horrified last year to read that the former chief strategist to President Trump, Steve Bannon, called for Dr Fauci to be beheaded. Mr Bannon was banned from Twitter as a result, but he still has a podcast, and a recent guest on that podcast said, "Coronavirus is doing more damage to our liberties than our health." And that guest was Senator Canavan, going on the podcast hosted by someone who has called for the beheading of one of the world's leading public health officials. There should be nothing easier than for Senator Payne to rebuke Senator Canavan, and I invite her to do that today. And I invite Senator Birmingham to do the same unequivocally, and not the weasel words that we've heard from the Prime Minister, "Oh, it's a matter for them." It's a matter for them. Senator Canavan has also written in the FN Review that using lockdowns in Sydney to save lives was an unjustifiable expense. Well, I would like him to tell us which life saved he thinks is an unjustifiable expense. Who should sacrifice, a mother or a father or a daughter or a son, because their life shouldn't be saved? It isn't precious enough to be saved. You know, when people say we should learn to live with the virus, what they're actually saying to Australians is be prepared for some of you to die from it. This government This government has to stand up to those peddling disinformation, and their failure to do so demonstrates the same lack of responsibility this government, this Prime Minister continues to have.